All right. Joining me now, First Class Father, Deepak Chopra. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you, Alec. Nice to be with you.
All right, let's start right here. How many kids do you have? How old are they?
My kids, I have two kids. One is 46. He just turned 46. That's my son, Gautam, that you know. And then Malika, his older sister, who's 49, going to be 50. And I am 37.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I had a great conversation with your son just recently. Now, obviously, here at Deepak, you've had an extensive career. You've had a lot of success. You've written countless books, 90 plus here. Well, along this journey that you've had, how did the experience of becoming a father kind of change your perspective on life?
Well, I have to be very honest. When I became a father, which is almost 50 years ago, I was earning $200 a month, and I had to pay the rent, and I had also to send my kids later to school, and I didn't have enough money to even buy food. So what I was doing in 1971, when my daughter was born, was working 24/7, part-time as an intern, part-time in the emergency room, and basically just making enough to pay the rent and pay for the food bill. So my wife was totally in charge of these two little kids. And in fact, when Gautam was born, I was working at $4 an hour in an emergency room, treating gunshot wounds. And she drove herself to the hospital, got the baby delivered, Gautam Chopra, whom you now know, and then called me on the phone and said, "Congratulations, you're now a father." Okay, so that was my experience. And even though I felt amazingly thrilled, ecstatic about those two kids when they were born, I was just outside the house, and only my wife took care of them till they came of age. Now, of course, I'm having the experience of a grandfather, and that is amazing, absolutely, because I don't have to think about paying the rent.
Yeah, very well said. And jumping right into here right now, obviously the whole world has been turned upside down by the coronavirus, and we were constantly hearing a lot of different things: wear 2 masks, wear 3 masks, social distance, don't go out after 10 o'clock. All these things. How much of the impact on the individual does the coronavirus have in their mind, as opposed to the science of what they're trying to tell you? Is if, like, maybe if you believe you're going to get this, you will. If you believe you'll be okay with it, you will be. How much of that plays into this?
Alec, this is a very complex question that requires a very thoughtful answer, and there cannot be any dogmatic view on this on either side. So let me tell you the scientific story, and then I'll tell you the other story, okay? The scientific story is based on identifying the virus. It's based on knowing what it is made up of, the genetic material. And then the treatments like vaccines are meant to counter that genetic material from reproducing itself. And having grown up in India, where I saw millions of people die of tuberculosis, malaria, smallpox, polio, even diphtheria and measles, I was convinced that vaccines save lives. They save millions of lives. I grew up with people who were either scarred for life or paralyzed for life or dead, including friends. So nobody can tell me that vaccine is not a good idea. It is a fantastic idea. Nobody can tell me that anything that they tell us about masks or even double masks, depending on the situation, I think everything that science is saying is 100% sensible. Now, come to the other story. The other story is life is very complicated. We don't just experience pandemic, we experience financial crisis, loss of jobs, fear of death. We see people dying. We see losing our parents or losing people that we knew. Even young people are dying of COVID-19. And we also know that COVID, the virus itself, has been present for 50 million years, and humans have been present for 50,000 years. So evolution gives an advantage to genetic information that's evolving than to you and me. As far as nature is concerned, all of life is an ecosystem. Given that, it's very complex, because when I see last year, I've seen people dying, getting sick, young, old, all kinds. Some of them, if not the vast majority of them, over 90% of them, if they're older, like I'm older, I'm 74 years old, although I'm biologically 37, and that's another story. So if they're older, they have either chronic anxiety, low grade. Sometimes they don't even know that they have chronic anxiety. They also have chronic depression, low grade. They also have low grade inflammation. And these are the people who also have obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune illness, allergies, frequent infections, frequent colds. They're the ones who are getting sick. And they're the ones who are dying. What about the young ones? The young ones, initially, it was very confusing. You know, why? These guys have a strong immune system. They don't have chronic illness. Why are they getting sick? Obviously, not all of them. There may be racial differences. But actually, the real difference is the zip code. So if I go to zip code and see who's getting sick, I can tell you who's getting sick. The zip code defines everything about your life. How much money you make, your racial background, crime, police surveillance, all those complexities that actually make people victims of social injustice, economic injustice, racism, bigotry, economic poverty, a history of abuse, lack of self-esteem, very complex. Okay, so what I've been doing in the last 1 year, I've been teaching people meditation, deep breathing, yoga, martial arts, which is actually martial arts of any kind, Tai Chi, Qigong, Judo, whatever, and singing and deep breathing. And guess what? These practices stimulate a nerve in the body called the vagus nerve, which does the opposite of the fight, flight, sympathetic overdrive that is killing us in the world. So this literature is now coming out. We are publishing it, and it's fantastic. What you can do is you can minimize illness 95% of the times, 95%, even with those people who are predisposed to it. Only 5% of gene mutations fully penetrant guarantee a disease. So somebody has a gene mutation like it's called the BRCA gene that Angelina Jolie had. Everyone knows the story now because she's a celebrity. She had a bilateral mastectomy to prevent her from getting breast cancer. Now in 5 years, we'll have, even for that, we'll have technology. You'll be able to cut and paste a gene in the way you cut and paste emails. So metaphorically speaking, you'll be able to read the barcode of a gene, then delete the gene that's harmful, insert the gene that's beneficial, and say, voila, that's cure. Well, sad part is only 5% of people will be affected by that. The rest, sleep, stress management, mind-body coordination, exercise, good diet, healthy relationships, love, compassion, joy, and take it easy, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, that and a little digital Deepak would work out too, I think. So, one of the things I worry about here too, Deepak, is like with the kids, like when kids are sponges, 2, 3, 4 years old, they're mimicking what they're seeing and they're absorbing everything that's going on. So when they're seeing the adults wearing the masks and social distancing, staying away from other human beings and not having those interactions, that could start to play a toll on their psyche. So I wanted to kind of tie this into you with the digital Deepak. Now, what was the genesis of you beginning the digital Deepak, and what is a good age for us to introduce our kids into meditation?
Okay, so here's the thing. First question first. Children watch their parents, okay? And until the age of 5 years, you can't teach them anything. They like to play. That's it. And, and they need four things: attention, which means deep listening; appreciation, you're a good baby, I love you; affection, I'll take care of you no matter what; and acceptance, I don't want to change you, you're unique. If you give the four A's to a baby, and the baby only watches your eye movements, facial expressions, you're smiling, you're scowling, gestures, body language, that's it. And if it feels safe, then it doesn't matter. Of course, if you're wearing a mask, then it can't see your facial expressions and you smile and all of that. So in the house, you don't have to social distance with your parent, with your children, as long as you're all, in the same environment anyway. You just have to take precautions. But this eye contact, facial expression, cooing, cuddling, kissing, touching, embracing, hugging, this is what is responsible for our emotional and physical development, not just emotional, physical too. So if a baby is deprived of this, no matter what you do with the baby, meditation, this, that, not going to work. Okay, play with the baby, give him four A's, and make sure that the baby's brain resonates with your brain joyfully. Now, what I have done, including my own kids who are now adults, 5 years of age, I told them, you have to shut up every day for 5 minutes and I'll join you. 6 years, shut up for 6 minutes. In other words, keep silence. 7 years, 7 minutes. But when they got to 10, I taught them meditation and it worked.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. Sometimes we're so busy trying to get our kids to grow up, be more like us. I think maybe we need to become more like a child again, too, sometimes and get down with them.
100%.
Yeah. And you know what? For the dad out there listening, Deepak,
Okay.
who's unfamiliar.
Digital Deepak, on the other hand. So, Digital Deepak, if you join Digital Deepak, you'll become my friend. And you can tell me as little or more than about you that you want. Yeah, and I won't judge you. I will get to learn you. And for the rest of your life, I'll be a coach in those 7 areas: sleep, stress management, emotions, nutrition, healthy relationships, emotional resiliency, and ultimately spiritual enlightenment. So it's precise, it's predictable, it's preventable, it requires your participation, but it's fun.
And it's a lot easier to listen to you than it is Alexa. So I think that's a bonus as well. And for the dads that are out there that are unfamiliar and are just getting into this type of philosophy or this type of thinking, what book? I mean, you've got so many. Where would you recommend the dad out there to start? What book should he go to of yours that you would recommend for him to start with?
The most popular book, and if you think you're in kindergarten and you want to start there, the most popular book and the best book is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. If you want a PhD, then Meta-Human.
Wow, very cool.
Something like this, The Book of Secrets.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm going to drop a link in the description of this episode so my listeners can get over there, tap over there and get all your catalog to see where they want to go with it. And I know you got meditations and affirmations, the 64 cards to awaken your spirit that drops here. Now, I remember Jim Rohn once saying affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. And a lot of times we hear about, people with affirmations. What's the key to really using affirmations in a way that they're actually going to affect a positive change in your life?
So intention without action is useless. Action without conscious intention is also useless. So right now there are all these people that I don't call human beings. I call them human doings. Okay, because they're doing, and they're totally mindless. With affirmations, you begin to know what you want. Okay, you begin to know, because your affirmation might be, I want to be a billionaire. Mine might want to be, I want to start this charity. Somebody else's might be, I want to fix my relationship with my wife or whatever. Okay, so affirmations help you know what your intention is. But if they're not followed by action, why bother?
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, I know it's one of the things I try to do with my kids, trying to get them in that positive role of trying to get them to say the affirmations, hopefully that they'll stick and they'll be able to give themselves that self-confidence, that self-belief.
I did a meditation called Abundance, 21 Days of Abundance. And I gave some action steps. But then what happened is it went out there, it went viral, and people started creating their own action steps. And I realized that they knew more than I did about what they wanted, and I had no right to tell them what they wanted. I only needed to guide them in the right direction. Because if I asked you what is your deepest desire, it would be very different than mine or any one of those people on those posters behind you.
Yeah. And it's to customize the affirmation in a way that fits your mold. Obviously, would
And
be the most effective.
And one way to know that is close your eyes and ask yourself, what do I want? That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. A lot easier said than done sometimes too. And I wanted to ask you too. You got a partnership here with Fitbit now. How did you get involved in that? And what is this? Yeah, I see it on your wrist there. So what was the beginning of this, and what can we expect to see from you and the Fitbit connection here?
Right now, all the apps out there on exercise and meditation and mindfulness, they take you through a process, but there's no way of real time measurement of what's happening in your heart rate variability, what's happening in your breathing, what's happening in your immune system, what's happening stress levels. There are apps that do that, but there are no apps at the moment that I know of that where in real time you can see what's happening in your mind body and how it relates to your heart rate variability, stress levels, sleep, all of that. You can see that in real time. Once you can see that, I have added now meditations on Fitbit. You can in real time change what's happening in your body through the practice. So this for me is a delightful experiment to validate what we've been talking about for 30 years, that your mind affects your body. Now we can show it right here on your wrist. That's a bonus, right?
Yeah, incredible stuff. And let me pull it back into you as a dad here for a second, Deepak. Now, I've had Gotham on the show, so I'm curious to hear your answer about this. But what type of disciplinarian were you as a dad with the kids growing up, and is that different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
No, I grew up with a certain discipline style, and I was the same discipline style with my kids. So when Gotham was growing up, for example, um, and this, hope he's okay with me saying this, but if he's not, so be it. I'm his dad. So in early stages in school, he was a terrible student, bad grades in math, everything. All he did was read comic books and watch sports. That's it. Okay. So my wife would complain all the time that he's not disciplined. And I said, let him do what he does, let him play. One day he'll be an authority on sports. He'll create a company that owns comic books, and he'll be a superstar. And if needed, he can hire a mathematician to be his accountant. Well, all of that happened because I was totally undisciplined. And that's what I have always believed, that if your children have strengths and passion and fun and play at something, that's what their mission is. If your kid loves to play tennis and is poor at math, what do most parents do? They get him a math tutor. I wouldn't do that. I'd get him a tennis coach, and then one day he'll get a math tutor to be his accountant.
Yeah, wow, incredible stuff, Deepak. Yeah, and it's one of the things for myself as a dad. Like my oldest son became interested in chess at an early age, and it was a game I never played, never had any interest in, and I learned it so that I could play it with him. And now it's a big part of our family. So sometimes, we try to pull our kids in our own direction, but we can sometimes rally behind their interest and get down and get involved in it. So I love what you have to say there.
Focus on their strengths and not their weaknesses.
Yeah, very cool. And I would be remiss here, Deepak, if I didn't ask you. I'm somebody that went through a lot of transformation in my own life. I'm a recovering alcoholic, recovering addict, this whole thing. And one of the things that really helped me out through this was reading. And one of the biggest impacts was Wayne Dyer. I started to really read his stuff, and I know you had a close connection with him. So what would you say, what was the biggest impact or message or lesson that you got from being around and being close with Wayne Dyer?
Wayne and I met over 35, 40 years ago. And what I learned from him was I was too philosophical and too scientific. And he was the most amazing storyteller I knew. So he would take everything I knew and many other people knew, and he knew how to tell a good story that resonated with people, not only at a spiritual level or a logical level, but at an emotional level. And what I learned from Wayne is we all pretend to be intellectual when actually we're all creatures bristling with emotion. And so, if you don't have a story to inspire people, and if it's not an inspirational love story, then it doesn't matter what you know. It's useless. Okay? Wayne combined knowledge with experience, and that's what I learned from him.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Yeah. I'm a big fan of his, and I didn't even start reading him until long after he had stopped writing. And so it's great that we have access to all these material, like, and we can share with our kids and it'll live on forever. So that's what's awesome about this stuff. Now, obviously, you've had all this success. You've written so many books. What are your goals? What are your plans here for the future? What's next for you, Deepak?
I want to reach, with your help and other people's help, 1 billion people so we can have a critical mass of intentionality and behavior to manifest a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. As far as success is concerned, I've been there, done that. Now it's my time to serve and share what I know with those who want to listen. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, beautifully said. And God knows we need it right now more than ever with the shift that we've had. So thankful for yourself out there. Last thing I'm going to hit you with here, Deepak. I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
Play with your kids. That's what they want. And play as much as you can. And then you don't have to teach them anything.
Yeah, beautiful. Well said. I love the message. This really has been an honor for me. I got to say, Deepak Chopra, you're a first class father all the way. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you, Alec. Nice to meet you, and it's an honor.